So what you have to really watch out for is there are programmers now who are going to come up with ideas that can replace entire industries. They will completely rewrite the way things are done, and their intelligence can be maximally leveraged with all these bots and all these AI agents. I think every other job out there is going to get eaten up by programmers one way or another over the maximally long term. Obviously, it has to instantiate into robots, etc. But the good news is anybody who is a logical, structured thinker, who thinks like a programmer, and can speak any language that an AI can understand, which will be every language, will now be on the playing field. They will be able to make anything they want, obstructed only by their creativity, limited only by their imagination. So we are entering an era where every human, in a sense, is a spellcaster. If you think of programmers as like these wizards who have memorized arcane commands, you can think of AI as a magic wand that's been handed to every person, where now they can just talk in any language they want, and they're a wizard too.
Another tweet from a year ago, which is arguing perhaps the complement of what we just talked about, is no entrepreneur is worried about an AI taking their job.
That one's glib in multiple ways. First of all, being an entrepreneur isn't a job. It's literally the opposite of a job. And in the long run, everyone's an entrepreneur. Careers got destroyed first, jobs get destroyed second, but all of it gets replaced by people doing what they want and doing something that creates something useful that other people want. So no entrepreneur is worried about an AI taking their job, because entrepreneurs are trying to do impossible things. They're trying to do very difficult things. Any AI that shows up is their ally and can help them tackle this really hard problem. They don't even have a job to steal. They have a product to build. They have a market to serve. They have a customer to support. They have a creativity to realize. They have a thing that they want to instantiate in the world, and they want to build a repeatable and scalable process around getting it out into the world. This is so difficult that any AI that shows up that can do any of that work is their ally. If the AIs themselves are entrepreneurs, they're likely going to just be entrepreneurs serving other AIs, or they're under the control of an entrepreneur. The thing that the AI itself is missing at the end of the day is its own creative agency. It's missing its own desires, and they have to be authentic, genuine desires. We're still pretty far from that though. Right now, the AIs are not embodied. They don't have agency. They don't have their own desires. They don't have their own survival instinct. They don't have their own replication. Therefore, they don't have their own agency. And because they don't have their own agency, they cannot do the entrepreneur's job. In fact, I would summarize this by saying the key thing that distinguishes entrepreneurs from everybody else right now in the economy is entrepreneurs have extreme agency. That's why it's diametrically opposed to the idea of a job. A job implies that you're working for somebody else or you're filling a slot, but they're operating in an unknown domain with extreme agency. There are other examples of roles like this in society. An explorer also does the same thing, right? If you're landing on Mars or you're sailing a ship to an unknown land, you're also exercising extreme agency to solve an unsolved problem. A scientist exploring an unknown domain does this. A true artist is trying to create something that does not exist and has never existed, yet somehow fits into the set of things that can explain human nature, allow them to express themselves, and create something new. So in all of these roles, whether you're a scientist or whether you're a true artist or whether you are an entrepreneur, what you're trying to do is so difficult and it is so self-directed that anything like an AI that can help you is a welcome ally. You're not doing it because it's a job. You're not trying to fill a slot that somebody else can show up and fill. In fact, if the AI can create your artwork, or if the AI can crack your scientific theory, or if the AI can create the object or the product that you're trying to make, then all it does is it levels you up. Now it's the AI plus you. The AI is a springboard from which you can jump to a further height. We're going to see some incredible art created that's AI assisted. We will see movies that we couldn't have imagined created by people using AI tools. There's an analogy here in art that's interesting. For a long time in art, the rough direction was trying to paint things that were more and more realistic. Paint the human body, paint the fruit, paint proper lighting, etc. Eventually photography came along, and then you could replicate things very precisely, and so that selection pressure went away. And then art got weird. Art went in many different directions. Art became all about, well, can I be surreal? Can I create something that expresses me? A lot of art schools spun out of that got really weird, including modern art and postmodernism. But also, I would argue some of the greatest creativity came at that time. We were freed up. Photography got democratized, but photography itself became a form of art, and there were great photographers. taking many different kinds of photographs. And now everyone's a photographer. There are still artists who are photographers, but it's not the pure domain of just a few people. So the same way, because AI makes it so easy to create the basic thing, everybody will create the basic thing. It'll have value to them individually. A few will still stand out that will create variations of it that are good for everyone. And it would be very hard to argue that society is worse off because of photography, although it may have certainly felt like that to some of the artists who were maybe making a living painting portraits of people and got displaced. Similar things will happen with AI, where there are people who are making a very specific living, doing very specific jobs that will get displaced that the AI can do. But in exchange, everyone in society will have the AI. You'll have incredible things that were created with AI that couldn't have been created otherwise. And within a few decades, it'll be unimaginable that you could roll back the clock and get rid of AI or any kind of software, any kind of technology for that matter, just to keep a few jobs that were obsolete. The goal here is not to have a job. The goal is not to have to get up at 9 in the morning and come back at 7 p.m. exhausted, doing soulless work for somebody else. The goal is to have your material needs solvable by robots, to have your intellectual capabilities leveraged through computers, and for anybody to be able to create. I used to do this thought exercise that I think I talked about in a podcast that you and I did literally 10 years ago, which was, imagine if everybody were a software engineer or everybody was a hardware engineer and they could have robots and they could write code. Imagine the world of abundance we would live in. Actually, that world is now becoming real. Thanks to AI, everybody can be a software engineer. In fact, if you think you can't be, you can go fire up Claude right now or any of your favorite chatbots and you can go start talking to it. You'd be amazed how quickly you could build an app. It'll blow your mind. And once we can instantiate AI through robotics, which is a hard problem, I'm not saying we're that close to having solved it yet, but once we have robots, everyone can also do a little bit of hardware engineering. And so I think we're getting closer and closer to that vision.